So I do want to talk about growing Rotary, and it's an interesting conundrum, you know, that when we talk to clubs and Rotarians and say, what is your biggest membership challenge? Often we'll say attracting new members. But, you know, there's an argument that we don't have an attraction problem. In fact, we bring in about 150,000 new Rotarians every year, right across the world. But guess how many we lose? We lose about 150,000. And interestingly enough, the numbers aren't that different in Australia. We bring in about 4,000 new Rotarians every year, and we lose a similar number. And while I'm talking about numbers, there's probably one other number that is significant, and that is, of those 150,000 Rotarians we lose every year, we lose 18,000, so more than 10%, in their very first year of membership. And in fact, we lose almost half of those, or almost half of the members that leave each year, leave within their first 2 years of membership. So as I said, I think there's an argument to say we don't have an attraction problem, we have a retention problem. And so that's what I'd like to do today, is just talk a little bit about strategies and tips to increase member engagement, because the key to increasing retention is better engagement with our members. And I guess because I know that most of you are involved in a whole range of organisations, volunteering organisations, not just Rotary, I'm going to draw the tips and hints from the literature, from research generally into volunteering and volunteer management. And I'm going to use examples of good practice from Rotary clubs. Now, I'm not going to use a PowerPoint. I'm just going to speak from the heart, and I'm just going to hope you've got a pen and a piece of paper. So let me start with tip number one. Tip number one is very simply that it's critically important that new volunteers coming into our clubs receive a positive first impression of Rotary. You know, and I've seen clubs do this well in one of two ways. Firstly, they'll either spend more time with the prospective member so that they really understand what Rotary is about and what our clubs are about, or alternatively, they'll work on the club so that it is more attractive to new members. You know, we know that there are clubs that look at their rituals and their traditions and their meeting operations and their projects, trying to make sure that, you know, they are relevant and attractive. So first one, create the right first impression. Now, my second tip, or the second tip from the literature, is simply that we need to provide meaningful volunteering roles. You know, everyone, whether they're paid or unpaid, wants to know that they are making a difference. And we know this is true in Rotary because Rotary International did a large member experience survey last year, and they said to Rotarians, what does it mean to volunteer? What does it mean to give back? And Rotarians said overwhelmingly, it means that I get to apply my particular skills and experience to make a difference. So we really need to make sure that we are giving our volunteers meaningful service opportunities. And again, I've seen clubs doing this well in a number of different ways. One is simply saying to new members, what is it that you want to get out of Rotary? So really understanding our members' needs. Secondly, making sure that we have all sorts of different service projects in our clubs so that there really is something for everyone. And I absolutely applaud those clubs that are really trying to strive for more audacious service projects, you know, service projects that really do make a difference. So that's my second tip, making sure that we're offering meaningful volunteering roles, because volunteers have so many choices these days. They can leave very easily and go somewhere else. My third tip is communicate, communicate, communicate. You know, to keep our volunteers engaged, we absolutely need to have effective two-way communication. And we need to communicate in ways that are meaningful for our volunteers, you know, in ways that we've agreed. You know, and again, I've seen some clubs doing this particularly well. You know, they're leveraging technology to stay in touch with their members. And I think we're all getting a bit of a sense of that in the pandemic. Conducting regular surveys with their members just to get a sense of the pulse, you know, of the club. You know, there are clubs that are very open and transparent about their decision making, particularly at board level, and that's important. And similarly, there are clubs that have really good grievance procedures and processes, so they get to deal with the little issues that inevitably arise early before they become full-blown conflict. So communicate, communicate, communicate. That's my third tip. The fourth tip that comes up in the literature about volunteering and volunteering management is simply making it fun. You know, even the most passionate of volunteers, and Evan's a classic example, you know, even the most passionate volunteers want to have fun. And again, we've seen some clubs do this really well. They have really active social programs. You know, they go to Rotary events en masse because the club that plays together stays together. You know, they go to assemblies, conferences, conventions together and have fun in that way. The other thing some clubs do well is they promote the fun programs of Rotary. You know, the fellowships, the friendship exchanges. You know, I've seen a lot of social media posting about the brew fellowship of late. You know, the things that are fun, you know, because we do all want our volunteering to be fun. I think the comment I would make about fun is that it does need to be inclusive fun. You know, it needs to be fun that appeals to all of our members, not simply some of them. And I ask you to think about that. So that's my fourth tip, make it fun. My fifth tip, I think, is a really important one, and that is the importance of recognising and appreciating our volunteers. You know, volunteers need to know that their contribution is valued and appreciated. You know, all of us, our time is valuable. And so we need to make sure that we're recognising and appreciating our volunteers. And again, I've seen some clubs do this well. You know, I've seen clubs that profile members on their club websites and social media pages. You know, similarly, clubs that put up their own members for club and, even more importantly, community awards, you know, as a way of recognising their efforts. Just simply developing a culture of appreciation within the club. They don't need to be grand gestures, but simple thank yous can often make a world of difference. So that's my fifth tip, recognise and appreciate our volunteers. Number 6 is also important, and it's about making sure, showing volunteers what they have achieved. You know, we don't do that well enough in Rotary, I think. We don't celebrate what we have achieved. And members need to see that. It's part of knowing that we're making a difference. You know, and we need to do that because they volunteer because they care. And we need to show that the caring has actually made a difference. And again, I've seen clubs do that quite well. You know, there are clubs that track their volunteer hours so that they can tell the community quite loudly and clearly how many hours volunteers are spending making a difference. You know, similarly, the clubs that bring back the beneficiaries to talk about how Rotary actually changed their life. You know, we like to hear those things. And the clubs that breed great storytellers, you know, that as Evan said, you know, tell the story of the good works that we do. So that's my number 6 tip, showing our volunteers what they have achieved. You know, and some of us are good at doing it at the AGM or maybe at changeover, but can we do it more frequently in our clubs? My last tip is something really special about Rotary. We need to make sure our members know that they are part of something really big. You know, there is definitely power in numbers. As our numbers grow, our members feel validated and more people want to join us. So I encourage all of you to remind our members that they are part of something truly big. You know, and again, some clubs are doing this quite well. You know, they will make a very concerted effort to connect members to Rotary beyond the club. You know, they'll help them do makeups at other clubs so they can see how other clubs work. They'll support them to attend conferences as a way of just indicating that clubs are part of something bigger. You know, we don't just highlight polio, you know, because we want to eradicate it, and we absolutely do. But the other reason we do it is because it's absolutely an amazing thing. You know, when we eradicate polio, it'll be the second only disease ever to be eradicated. You know, and we will have done it. We are part of something truly, truly big. You know, and similarly, just encouraging our members to be part of great big international events, and how lucky we are to have the convention coming to Melbourne in 2023. So they are my 7 tips, and they are embedded in the research, and you can apply them right across the board. Create the right first impression, provide meaningful volunteering roles, communicate, communicate, communicate. Make it fun, but make it inclusive fun. Recognise and appreciate is number 5. Show them what they've achieved, and then let them know that they are part of something truly big. So let me finish just with a call to action. And this is where my message starts to dovetail into Evan's. My first message, and I think it's my most important message, is that we need to put our members at the heart of our Rotary Club experience. We need to make our Rotary clubs fit our members, not make our members fit our clubs. So we need to make it personal. Secondly, I hope you will reflect on some of the tips and hints I've shared today. Maybe there are some of those that you can take back to your club to strengthen member engagement. And if there are, then I encourage you absolutely to do that. We have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And finally, with your members at the heart of your Rotary Club experience, then I want you to do everything that Evan told you to do. you know, to tell our stories, to promote our brand, and just to remind our communities, our new members and our existing members of the incredible impact that we make and the incredible difference that we make to communities and to ourselves. So again, thank you for listening. Most importantly, thank you for giving up precious time on your Saturday